6:30 every night when I usually we're meeting up with people online to get ready for our 7 o'clock study. It feels kind of weird. I
Yeah.
feel suddenly, I feel like, oh, wait a minute, it's tonight the night, and I have to remember. It's harder to remember which is Tuesdays and Thursdays, so it's like
Right.
messy.
Right.
I was part of a study the other day. I thought I'd bring this up that where somebody was talking about the struggles that young people have, and especially some of the struggles that young people in the congregation have. And I thought I would just, while we're waiting for people to join us, I would mention, Rick wasn't able to be there, but I would mention to all of you that one of the things that struck me that I thought was rather insightful was that we have a lot of people, and especially a lot of young people, who not only don't know how to study, but are settling for what I would call superficial answers to their questions. So in other words, if you have a question about something, let's say you have a question about a medical condition, instead of calling your doctor, what's the first thing you do?
Get on the internet.
That's right. So you Google it or whatever, and then which things do you read? Now, some of us might go to the Mayo Clinic site or something like that, but for the most part, people are looking at the top 4 or 5 hits. There may be, for your question, 12 million results. You're not going to look at all of those. You're going to look at the top ones. And then, even then, you are likely not to read something that's going to take you half an hour to read.
Right.
You're not going to watch an hour video on
Right.
your question. If you go to YouTube and you want to know how to fix your car, it's gonna say, you look after you see it, what it is, you're gonna look down in the corner, you're gonna see how long it is.
Right.
And if it's more than 5 minutes, maybe if it's more than 3 minutes, you're likely not going to watch it.
Right.
But there's another one right there that looks like it's on the same topic, 3 minutes, and even news articles a lot of times will put down in the corner, if you look at it, it'll say it's a 5-minute read.
Mm-hmm.
Or an 8-minute read. Why are they telling people that? Because people won't even open it if they think that they're going to have to read longer. So what happens is that people come to us, they ask a Bible question, and we say, well, there's this book here. Mine has 1,426 pages. 1,426 pages. Okay, and you say your answer is in here. And they say, well, just tell me the answer. And my response is no.
Right.
I'll direct you to where it is, but you need to dig in. You need to read it. So that's, a lot of people aren't reading it either. And then you need to read the context, and you need to, and it grows and grows and grows. Suddenly they realize this isn't a 6-minute read. They realize that this isn't a 5-minute video, and they smile and they thank me. You know, I'll look into it, and we go home. What do you think they do?
Get on the video.
Yeah, they Google their question, their spiritual question, and they look for, don't consider the source. Maybe some do consider the source, but a lot of times don't even consider the source, and just that it fits into their schedule, it fits into their attention span, it fits into what they're looking for, and then they think that they understand it. So I think this is a massive problem, and that we need to realize that our young people have very, very serious questions, but that they need to be shown that serious questions deserve serious attention, and we train them with that, with all the other questions that they see us Googling and YouTubing, and not really doing the due diligence, not just in spiritual matters, but in other things. So I think settling for superficial answers winds up biting us and winds up biting the next generation.
I'm afraid we're getting people who want to treat their spiritual advisor or their preacher or teacher or elder or something more like a doctor who just gives them the bottom line answer and doesn't help them think through it. And of course, the reality is, if we give you the bottom answer, and so many times that's what people say, oh, don't confuse me with the facts, just tell me what the can I or can't I. That kind of approach, when that happens, is even if we give them the right answer, their faith is not in God, their faith is in us, and we don't want that.
And they've not learned.
We as preachers cannot allow that to happen.
Yeah, we haven't taught them to fish. We've just given them a fish, fed them temporarily, maybe the right thing, maybe not, and they don't even know that for sure. And so
Yeah.
you wind up having to show them how to reason through the scripture. And I'll tell you, not only is it painful for them, but it's also painful for the preachers and teachers and elders and everything and parents who are walking through one more time a text that they've walked through 1,000 people before, or their younger brother and sister. And here comes the older brother and sister, and here comes the younger one. I've got to walk through the same story again. And sometimes those younger ones don't get it because we think, well, we gave it to that one, and we don't even think to give it to them. We get wear out. So let's not settle for fast food when it comes to spiritual matters, because it's difficult. That is not our topic for today. It could easily be, I don't know what word that is, but I'll welcome all of you to Encouraging Words. Rick and I sometimes get to talking about some things, and you wonder, I'm lost here. I don't know even what the word is yet. And then we realize that we haven't even told you the word yet. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to everybody where we try the study where we try to find a word in scripture that does offer us some real encouragement, especially for any time, but especially now for this time. Rick is with us again. Rick, appreciate you being here.
Well, it's good to be here, David, and thanks for everybody who's joining us again tonight. As David mentioned, in this study, we try to discuss some words that encourage us in some way, that build us up and help us in some way in a sort of positive light. But sometimes we have to admit that the encouraging words that we focus on in this study don't initially sometimes sound very encouraging. Sometimes they sound negative, at least at first, or sometimes they sound, the words often that we discuss they present us with a challenge of some sort. But ultimately, all of the words that we consider, I believe, do provide us with encouragement. And often that encouragement is not because the word itself is so encouraging, but because of what the application of that word to our life ultimately results in. It results in something that's very encouraging to us. The encouragement is found in what the word produces in us that's so positive and good. And that's where the encouragement is. And that's especially true when the words we discuss challenge us to be better people, to change or to be better people. Encouragement comes because of the benefits that come to us from applying these words to ourselves, and that's certainly true of the word that we want to look at tonight.
And so let's just begin our study with a question. Does living in the presence of God, actually living in his eternal house, in his presence, sound like a positive and encouraging thing? Well, surely it does for all of us. And don't we ultimately want to live with the Father? Well, of course. Psalm 15 opens by asking that question. O Lord, who may abide in your tent? Who may dwell on your holy hill? And in the New American Standard Bible, the answer that comes back sounds like this: He who walks with integrity and works righteousness and speaks truth in his heart. According to this text, the one who can live in the Lord's tent, the one who can live with God on his holy hill, is, among other things, the man who walks with integrity. And that's our encouraging word today: integrity.
Yeah, integrity. Boy, that's a challenging word, to be quite honest. It's and the reason it's so challenging is because it points us to a challenging character quality that needs to be produced in our life. The word integrity literally means to be undivided or unbroken, or to be in an unimpaired condition. It describes completeness or wholeness. Really, it is wholeness of character when we start talking about our integrity. It's just like a word that's related to it, the word integer, which is a mathematical word that refers to whole numbers. A whole number is something that's written without fractions. And this word is like that. We speak of the structural integrity of a building or a bridge. For example, maybe there's a tornado that's come past, and we ask the question, has the structural integrity of the structural integrity of the building been compromised or damaged by this storm? And that's what we're kind of that's the idea of integrity. And a man of integrity is a man who is unwilling to violate or to compromise his principles. He's unwilling to break his high code of conduct.
And so can you think of somebody in Scripture that was like that? Now, there are several. But a very early one was Job, a man of integrity. You remember what God asked Satan about him after God had allowed Satan to test Job. God said, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and shuns evil. And still he holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without cause." That's Job 2 and verse 3. Job held fast to his integrity, his moral wholeness of character, even after being tormented and tested by Satan. In fact, even when his own wife begged him, what it said in Job 2 verse 9, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity?" He said, "Curse God and die." Job wouldn't do it. He wouldn't compromise his moral integrity, but continued to do what was right. It was sort of like if you looked at the wreck, a tornado went through the life of Job. And just like the house that Rick talked about, that you test its structural integrity, you look at Job to see if his spiritual integrity had survived, and it had. Job wasn't a perfect man, but he clearly was a man of integrity.
That's right. And I think it's really interesting because in the 31st chapter, if you go to the 31st chapter of the book of Job, you'll find out that there Job defends his integrity. And it's interesting to look at how Job defends his integrity, because looking at his defense, we kind of get a glimpse into what real integrity looks like. And that's what we're kind of trying to figure out, is what does it mean to be a man of integrity? What does that quality look like? And one of the things that we learn from Job in this passage is that he wasn't simply concerned about external integrity. He wasn't only concerned about looking right or being upright outside where everybody could see him, but also he was concerned about inner integrity. Many of the things in Job 31, as he talks about his integrity, are things that had to do with internal things. For example, he begins it by saying, "I've made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze upon a virgin?" Job would not look lustfully at a virgin woman. He didn't think that would be appropriate. In fact, he saw that as kind of an inner secret. He wouldn't even let himself, for example, look at his neighbor's wife in some sort of lustful way. In verse 9, "If my heart had been enticed by a woman," he talks about, or I had lurked at the neighbor's doorway. He goes on to talk about he wouldn't let that happen. And of course, this is something that sort of just happens in a man's mind. Nobody necessarily knows that he's doing that, but Job knew that that was something he might do. But he said, "No, I'm not going to do that. That would affect my integrity before God." He knew, for example, that he'd not walked in any falsehood or deception, according to verse 5. He knew that he hadn't cheated his servants in any way, according to verse 13. It's interesting that he would not even secretly put his trust in some physical thing. He wouldn't trust in his gold. As you begin looking at verse 24, he wouldn't trust in his gold or in the things that he had. And in fact, he wouldn't do something that would lead him in the direction of false worship, because he talks about he didn't even look at the moon and maybe secretly blow a kiss to the moon as if he might in his heart want to worship the moon. He wasn't going to do that even secretly in his own heart. He was a man of real integrity. He would not. He also goes on to say in verse 29 that he would not rejoice even in his heart about the misfortune of his enemy. He wasn't willing to do that. Here was a man who was concerned not just about external uprightness, but a man who was concerned about making sure that even the things that no one else could see, just he and God, that he was still holding fast his integrity and doing what was upright, even in his mind. That's real integrity.
And I think you can start to feel just from Job alone, that that truth and adhering to truth, honesty, is a basic element of integrity. A man of integrity is absolutely honest, brutally honest. In fact, honesty is often thought of as a synonym for integrity, and it is, but integrity actually involves, if you can imagine a higher level of honesty. It involves habitual truthfulness. It speaks, it acts, all that it does is always in every circumstance, regardless of who is watching or isn't watching, or regardless of the consequences, is going to tell the truth. This kind of dedication to and love of the truth isn't always appreciated by other people. We would kind of think that integrity would be appreciated. It kind of fascinates me that some men and women of integrity are sometimes criticized at work, because you'd think, well, they're trustworthy and they're honest and they're open. They always, but that's not always appreciated in our world today. It sometimes involves saying the truth or being honest when other people don't want to hear it. But honesty of integrity, it produces trustworthiness. It's like a bridge that consistently tests true to its specifications.
Right.
We test out to always tell the truth every time, no matter what the consequences, no matter what happens. And although people sometimes don't like it, I'm going to assure you that they probably respect it, and they know where you stand, and then they know what to expect from you, because you have proven yourself to be a person of integrity.
That kind of honesty is clear in the text that we began with, David, in Psalm 15. Psalm 15 says that a man of integrity not only works righteousness, but he also speaks truth in his heart. Listen to that. He speaks truth in his heart. In fact, later on, it'll say in verse 4 that he's so honest that he swears to his own hurt and does not change. Even if keeping the vow or keeping the promise is not to his advantage, it's actually going to hurt him to keep the vow or keep the covenant, he's going to do that anyway. He keeps his promise, he keeps his word, and he speaks truth within his heart. This is an honesty that is that goes down deeper than just surface level. It's not a superficial kind of thing. This man of integrity that we're talking about, he's a man that knows that the Lord desires truth in the innermost being, as Psalm 51 and verse 6 describes it.
I think that there are people and that really want to be considered a person of integrity, want to be trusted, but don't want to have a heart like that.
Yeah.
They don't want integrity to go all the way through. They just want to be respected. It's interesting to see this in Job, and particularly that even privately in his inner self, he was trying to be a person of integrity. And something that I think you can see in Job that helped him was the fact that he was very conscious of the presence of God. Job knew that God sees everything, Job 31 and verse 4, that he judges the actions of men, Job 31 and verse 6. That means when other people don't see it, God still does. And Job also knew that he would answer to God for all things, because it's God who judges, Job 31 and verse 14. Job knew that calamity from God would be a terror, it's called in Job 31 and verse 23. Yeah, I know it's not popular today to bring it up, but people only want to hear about the blessings of walking with God. They don't want to hear what happens when you walk away from God. They don't want to hear what it's really like to be without God. And worse, they don't want to think about the disaster of fighting against God and working for his enemies. But Job says if you keep that in mind, it will help you avoid disaster, and it will help you be a person of integrity. So it's about being conscious, having a healthy consciousness of fear and reverence for God, who is present all the time, who sees all, and who ultimately holds us accountable.
Right. Let's talk for a minute, a few minutes about why being people of integrity is so encouraging, so beneficial. Let me just say, first of all, beneficial. You might say, yeah, let's please move on to that, because so far I'm finding myself very encouraged. I'm really just only finding myself super challenged. Okay, let's talk a bit. Let's consider some of the benefits that come from being a person of integrity. We want to suggest that you will not regret it if you accept the challenge and become a person of real integrity. It will be to your own advantage to develop integrity. So, David, why don't you spend a minute talk about some of the benefits of being people of integrity?
Yeah, we respect these people of integrity. We sent them up as our heroes, our spiritual mentors, and then we maybe don't always do the things that made them the people that we respect. There's this great sense of security, this peace that passes understanding that we see in people of integrity. Proverbs 10, verse 9, he who walks with integrity walks securely, but he who perverts his way will become known, lives in this terror that he's going to be found out and that bad things are going to happen. Proverbs 11 and verse 3, the integrity of the upright will guide them, but the perversity of the unfaithful will destroy them. Uh, People of integrity enjoy God's protection. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, Proverbs 2 and verse 7. And here's another real advantage. If you're a person of integrity, it will be a blessing to your family and to people around you, and it will build a legacy for the future. The righteous man walks in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. Proverbs 20 and verse 7. So think about what we have and what we avoid because we do things with God's integrity. And think about the same for our children. We want these great blessings, and so we need to teach them to walk in integrity. We don't need to feel sorry for them that they're somehow missing out on the things in life that aren't things of integrity, because we trained them to walk in integrity, and so they're going to be blessed forever. They're not missing out on, I don't know, some of the fun things of life because instead they're choosing to walk in integrity where there are true eternal blessings.
That's right. We want our kids to be people of integrity too. We want them to be blessed by the Lord. Well, they don't get that way if they've not seen that in our lives. So at least we put them on a great foot forward if we have ourselves been people of integrity. Of course, best of all, those are great blessings, I think, and benefits of being people of integrity. But best of all, probably is this quality is one that will put you in favor with God. That's critical. That's really important. You will be one of those who gets to abide in the Lord's tent, or dwell and gets to dwell on his holy hill. Psalm 15, 1 and 2. That's where we started out here in our study tonight. And you talk about encouraging. I mean, there can be nothing more encouraging than to have the confidence that we one day will live with our God in his eternal tent on his holy hill. That's a just an incredible concept or idea. It sort of makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. If becoming a person of integrity is challenging to you, though, remember that more often than not, the most rewarding things in life do not come easy. They typically come as a result of hard work and diligent effort. Integrity may be a hard word. It may even be a bit intimidating and point to a lofty quality. But when you're sitting in God's holy tent on his holy hill, you will know that it's been worth it all. And the thought of that ought to encourage you.
And it reminds me of the words to the one song that I personally really love a lot, where it says, just one glimpse of him in glory will the toils of life repay. Integrity may be a challenge, maybe difficult at times to invest in order to build our character. But I'm going to tell you, Scripture shows us clearly that it pays eternal dividends that are well worth it. And that's what makes integrity your encouraging word for today. Thanks for studying with us.
Thank you.